Well, hello, everybody. And my name is Chris McCool from Sultans of String, and welcome to Backstage, supported by the Canada Council to the Arts. This is our 6th in our 12-part series every Friday at noon EST, broadcasting live from Burlington. We'd like to acknowledge and thank the many First Nation and the Métis, from the Anishinaabe to the Haudenosaunee to the Huron-Wendat to the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for allowing us to occupy their traditional lands. Now, with our Backstage series, we're collaborating with special guests from our Refuge and upcoming Sanctuary albums, many of whom are newcomers to this land, Indigenous artists, and global talents who have been ambassadors for peace. We're super excited to share the success of those who make their journey here to Canada and bring with them their extraordinary talents. Now, in that countdown song, we had Kevin La Liberté on guitar, Drew Burston on bass, and our very special guest, Rosendo Chendy Leon in the house. Yeah. All right. And for those who have not attended a Sultans of String show before, Chendy has been with us from the very beginning, almost the very beginning, like 5 minutes after the hour. He was born and raised in San Antonio de los Baños in Cuba. He's played in many important bands in Cuba. In 1998, he participated in the production of the music for a Cuban documentary, which was nominated for an Oscar. Then, in about 22 years ago, he came to Toronto, Canada, where he collaborated and played with, well, just about everyone. Eliana Cuevas, Jane Bonnet, Luis Mario Ochoa, Son Ache, Amanda Martinez, Kane Fire, Hilario Duran, Sultans of String, Chris Durst, Nicholas Hernandez, Sophie Millman, Alex Cuba, Parachute Club, Jesse Cook, Patricia Cano, Dominic Macuso Group. These boys here and many, many more, which we can talk about as we go along. So welcome to the show, Chendy. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, boys. This is my house, too.
Oh, well,
Thanks
wrong
for
camera. There we go. All right. And for those watching at home who are wondering why it often hits the wrong camera, it's because I'm operating them with my feet. So there we go. Chendy, we are so incredibly blessed in the arts community here in Toronto and Canada to have you with us here and to have been able to play with you for more than 2 decades. For those who don't know your story, can you share a little bit about maybe your upbringing? Was there a lot of music in your life when you were growing up, for instance? That's something that I'm always curious about, like how people become musicians.
Yeah, I believe so. I come from I was born and raised into a family that it seemed to be very musical, either because my dad was a professional musician, or the rest of the family, which they were not professional, but they were very musical people. For instance, those 2 people, my mom, Maria, and my dad, Rosendo, were the most important people for me, like growing up. And I was born and raised in San Antonio de los Baños, which is a town that originally was called Arihuanabo, Villa del Arihuanabo, which is the name of the Aboriginal area, and it just means Arihuanabo. I believe it means river of the palm tree field, and so I'm attached to that town when it comes to being sort of from Cuba, and that town is very artistic. It has a lot of artists that have through the years come out of that town for reasons that no one knows. Maybe it was a concentration, and therefore there were more support at times for art. And I'm talking about pre the Cuban Revolution, Communist Party taking over, pre even that, like, not in the last 60 years, but for hundreds of years. So I don't know the reason, but there's many artists have come out of that village. And so since I was born, I remember, always around 4, being around percussion instruments, and my dad playing, and my mom dancing always, and being able to even play some instruments like maracas and clave and things like that. So that was my upbringing.
Do you think that in Cuba there's maybe even more emphasis on people playing music together as a family? Like, do you find that there's maybe more so than you find here in Canada, that music might be more integrated into everyday life than in Canadian or North American society?
I believe so, and I think there could be a few reasons for that. So, but briefly, what I have noticed and pay attention to, comparing to other cultures and groups of like humans gathered together for centuries, that I think over the centuries, for instance, like there's the African tradition, it's part of who I am. You know, I grew up with that African tradition, whether being in the kitchen or musically or culturally in other forms of expression, and also the Spanish. And throughout the centuries, many years have gone through, people have solved their issues and come together and become just one under one identity, you know, Cubans, and then developed from those that gave us that knowledge that they were able to still hold on to, rescue it, and rebuild their instruments, our African ancestors, with the Spanish influence also, more melodic and more having all the instruments like strings instruments, then to create what is known today as many of those styles in Cuba. So I think it's that's a great point, and I think it's time has passed, and it's been part of that healing, people getting together, solving, working together, and enjoying time together. And because islands have an effect on humans, you got nothing else than that piece of land and water around you. So people, they still find a way to go through a harsh time and not to look at, you know, walking away, because it's not part of a continent that where you are attached to land and you know, maybe I can just go south. But in Cuba, it's like you go east or west, but there you hit a point. And the same with the rest of the planet, but it's very tiny compared to the rest of the big continents, right?
Right. It is a good example. Like if we think of the Earth as just one tiny little speck of dust, one little island. That's one thing that, for those who saw Captain Kirk go into space a couple of days ago, and he came back. I'm sorry, what's his name?
William Shatner.
William Shatner, yeah. Little brain space there. Came back, and he was just like, oh my gosh, it's so tiny. I for the first time, I just see that we were just this one little speck of dust. And you know, when you realize that you have to take care of the whole planet. And I know you, as a human being, see the world that way. But there is that island effect. We have that kind of the same thing in Newfoundland, off the east coast of Canada for our American and UK viewers. That it's an island that joined the Canadian Confederation late in the game, and they really stuck together. And so there, you know, you can have like a house raising. You buy a couple of cases of beer, and together you raise a house over a weekend. You get everyone chips in,
right?
And the music as well in Newfoundland really kind of it became its own thing. A lot of people came over from Scotland, Ireland, England to Newfoundland, and then the fiddling tunes there kind of remained very much in those traditional sense, so that the Scottish musicians would come over to Newfoundland to relearn some of those tunes and go back. So
same thing happened in Cuba with the Afro-Cuban or the bata drums from Africa. Even in Africa, that evolved. And he kept moving as it should, you know. But in Cuba, because of persecution of the government, any government has been in power, they abused, stole from the citizens, including this one being the more that have done that. Even though export's a different idea, but they all done that. So in that effort for preserving the tradition, then that went really underground and secret, and it's frozen in time. Where in Africa they don't even play like that anymore, and they don't even know those variations.
And interestingly, in Cuba, whereas you're really restricted into the kind of political discourse you can have. you're restricted in the way that you can speak against the government. There's always eyes and ears listening. And yet, for some reason, art has always had free reign there. You could do the most incredibly political and bold visual art. You can sing about oppression. You can get away with things in art in Cuba that you can't get away with in any other fashion.
Yes and no. And I'm not saying that you're saying something wrong, but if I can get more accurate about that, the moment you really open up and let's write a song and it's very political, but on the wrong side of the government, that song gets shut down, you get shut down, you're not played in the radio, you're not invited to shows, and you're put on the list.
Right.
That is the list that the government has. And if you voiced out your opinion, you will end up in jail. Yeah. And if you're really, really, really like hitting them back with your being very smart person, very wise and outspoken, you can disappear. Yeah. People have disappeared and citizens of the world, and which I don't blame them for not knowing this. It's an island and it's a well-orchestrated machine that started in 1959, and people don't know about it. Mm-hmm. You cannot blame anybody else for not knowing about it, and also having a great time where they go. People are free to go anywhere they want, or they can allow themselves to pay and go.
Because a tour sees a completely different side of Cuba.
It's a different side, and I don't blame them.
It's a parallel world.
I always thank them for telling me, like, you guys are really nice, and I go like, thank you very much. And I don't go into that unless they really ask me about it. And I go like, okay, since you asked me, I'm gonna give you my opinion and the one that it's of many people. Otherwise, if it's a paradise, not millions of Cubans would have exited the island.
Yeah, of course.
Well,
we were talking about how music travels around the globe.
Yeah.
And the instrument that you're sitting on, the cajon, which is Spanish for box.
Yeah.
Now that's an interesting one because I always thought of it as an Afro-Peruvian or Afro-Cuban instrument.
Yeah.
But they also played in Spain. So what's the direction? Explain to us how it might have moved around a little bit.
Sure. And it happens the same way that it happens with food and people traveling within the planet around, right? So as I understand, the way this one is shaped, and not necessarily this same sound with those snares, and those are guitar strings attached to this front plate, but in the inside, this version comes or was somehow developed in Peru. And in Cuba, we got another version, which it's used to play our folkloric music, rumba, and it's called rumba con cajones, which means a cajon like this, a box, but it has a different shape. It looks almost like pretending to have like straight shape of like a djembe or a conga, but not having those curves. It's straight from the top. It's big where you play, a wider area, and then it goes narrow at the bottom, right? So, and those are very old, the same as old as the Peruvian idea of a cajon. But I think this got to Spain, and it's responsible, and it is because Paco de Lucia, he's responsible for that, which he gave birth to a new version of the Peruvian, because it's somehow a different sound. So the story, I think, if I heard it and it's accurate, is something along this, that Paco went to Peru with his band in, I believe, the 70s. Late 70s. And then he saw the cajon, and I believe either a gift, being such a precious folkloric, and it means a lot to the Afro-Peruvian folklore and people that preserves it. Maybe it was a gift presented to him, or he purchased one, which that I don't know how it happened, but he ended up going back to Spain with a cajon. And I think that fired up the whole new vision of playing cajons and the cajon being introduced in flamenco, because until then, flamenco had percussion and very percussive way of being expressed, but on tables, the dancers are doing percussive rhythms. Like that's an incredible skills that they have developed through years. That's what they do, right? Like tap dance. And so that's part of the percussion world. But until then, no percussion instrument had existed in cajon. So then
Interesting.
they wanted to add something different, a different sound that cuts through, and they added those snares, those wires.
Yeah, it does. It gives it that snare sound. In
Right.
fact, you can get the whole drum kit sound out of that one box.
That's a bass drum and a snare.
Brilliant.
And if you play ghost notes, that could be a hi-hat.
It's fantastic.
And it's limited. It's a box. So you gotta really challenge yourself how to learn from the people that have developed for these 30 or 40 years. But it's a lot of fun.
Let's feature this instrument in this song we're going to play now.
Okay.
The first song we opened up with in the countdown was called Yala Yala. This one is called Al Vuelo, which is Spanish for on the wing. And we're going to use a little bit of a bulerías form in this song. Just before we start this song, if you're on Facebook here, don't forget or please remember to hit that follow button so you'll know when we've got new videos coming up. And also, let us know in the chat where you're watching from. We would love to know that. And if you're watching this in repeat on YouTube, you can hit the subscribe button and ring that bell so that you'll find out when upcoming videos are happening. So here we go with Al Vuelo, On the Wing. Rosendo Chendy Leon in the house.
Take it, maestro.
Oh, beautiful. What a great solo. And Chendy. And look at all our friends here saying hi. Nicole, Paulette, Craig Burston, Michelle. So great to see all of you joining us here today. Carmel, Celia, Nancy, Dominic Mancuso. So Dominic and Amanda, they're two musicians here who are watching that love to have you in their band. Our favorite friend, Nicole in Montreal. We've got Malin. Nice to see you all here. Now, we're going to play another song, but just before we start, Chendy, not many people have accomplished what you have during the pandemic. You started an entirely new band during the pandemic, created a whole album. It's called the Elevator Collective. Can you tell us a little bit about this band, how it came to be, where we can find your music, and where'd you get the name? That's what I want to know.
Well, I first have to say thank you, because it's very kind of you to, I don't know, talk about another band.
No, it's a great band. We love everyone in it.
I know. We all, I think,
I listened to the whole album last night, by the way.
You did?
Yeah. It's on Spotify, The Elevator Collective, also theelevatorcollective.com for those who want to check it out.
Thank you, Chris. You really surprised me with that question. Well, anyways, so thank you. So the four of us used to play for many years, more than 13 years with Jesse Cook. That band came to an end, so we moved on, and we decided that that was not the only possible way that we could play together. So I said, let's just start getting together like kids when we were young, that you do it for the passion, for just like not knowing, right?
So beautiful. I love
Yeah, we
this.
said, like, let's not stop playing. That's not the only way that we could play together. So let's get together. And we started playing together and listening to one idea from one person and throwing it around. And what about if we do this? So everybody's giving the other people ideas. And that's how it starts. And that's how I think the great things start, because you're open. Your mind is open, not to just one thing. You're collaborating, right? And we can see that in our culture, that when we really do that, we achieve great things. So anyway, this band, we started in 2019, around after May, somewhere in June, I think we started getting together. And the one thing that we were always proactive, like, right away we figure a way to record whatever idea. So from rehearsal, it turned into a demo. And from a demo, we realized that it had a pretty good quality to be a final product, right, of a song or a piece. So then the name, and we did write a long list. Everybody throw a little bit of ingredients in that pot.
Names are tough. They're really tough.
Yeah, right. It makes it really hard, because then you want to be somehow simple that people get it, but unique. And so the Elevator Collective, it's like, I think maybe, I don't know how we came to that one. I truly don't remember now. But I think it's the whole idea is like an elevator goes up and it goes down. So that's like how life is, and it's a collective. And once we are in there, how are we gonna work together? So I think there's the metaphor. It's about also in life. How do you work best with people, right? Like collectively, and listening. So, and that's what music is. So. And these individuals are incredible musicians as well, just like these two, my older friend, your boys here. And then you also became, a great friend of mine, someone that I admire so much and have so much respect for what you do and you achieve. Not only what you do, but you're able to achieve. And Drew and Kevin and you have been part of my musical journey here as much as they've been, probably slightly before them. Right? But anyways, so on guitar, in the Elevator Collective, we have flamenco maestro that, it's one of the few ones in the city, Nicolas Hernandez. And he's from Montreal, but his parents are from the Canary Islands. So it's not attached whatsoever to flamenco music, but he discovered the passion for it, and he went for it and put a lot of efforts to do what he does. Like anybody that plays an instrument well, there's a lot of effort behind it, right? So then Chris Church from the East Coast, from Halifax, incredible also musician that picks up, never is afraid to pick up even new instruments.
Celtic.
Yeah, incredible violin
classical,
player, classical, and for the orchestra, and then also plays a little bit of piano and keys, and then he went into the duduk, which is an incredible hard and beautiful, small, simple flute to play, but and accordion, and then we have Dennis, which is one of the simple, tasty bass players that I ever played with, including Drew. That's incredible skills that a great musician can have. Being tasteful, being mature about what to play and what not to play, which is more important because otherwise it becomes an exercise and it's like never ending, right?
Yeah.
But and that's Dennis Mohammed, and he also has developed so incredibly his skills about, like you, engineering sound, like recording at home, like videos, like editing and putting videos together, and he's done a lot of work. And also Chris are responsible. Nick and I are a little bit more caught up in our routines, different, and we contribute a lot with the music, but those two individuals have pushed so much that band behind the scene, and
I can't wait until there's a show where we can see you live all together.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to that.
Thank you.
We're going to play another song now, and I would like to offer to you to pick the song. We were thinking of maybe Al Kahira if you wanted to use the Doumbek Darbuka, or Monty's Revenge if you wanted to play more cajon. Very different feels, those two songs. I'll let you decide.
Well, why don't we play it? I really love Monty's because I play the snare and I play with the brushes.
Yeah, great.
And we can maybe even introduce the darbuka after, just like a drum that we all love, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And what was I going to say? Oh, if anyone has questions, all these wonderful viewers we have here, if you have a question for Chendy, put it in the chat, and after this song, we will see if we can answer it.
Yes, please.
All right, here we go. Monty's Revenge, kind of a Chardash type vibe. Oh, so much fun. And I'm glad you picked that song because that's a song that is really, really, really hard to do without you. We do it without you sometimes, Chendy, but it's really tough because we need someone hitting the 4 on the floor. And I don't see any questions yet, but we do have Craig saying, Chendy, Sultans, Elevator Collective, don't forget to put Vancouver on the top of your tour schedule list.
That's a loving Craig.
Of course. All right. Oh, is Chendy with you or at his home studio, asks Amanda. Chendy is right here in our Zoom room. We built a vocal booth. And it's a real honor to have him here with us. And in fact, Amanda, it's funny you asked that because that's where you're going to be tomorrow when we do this show, Women of Song and Story. Amanda Martinez is going to be our host. She's going to be in that room. And we're also going to be zooming in with Kelly Lee Evans, Mandy Harvey, Tamar Ilana, Yasmin Levy. That's going to be the online show to end all shows. You can just surf to sultansofstring.com to find out more about that. And then in a month, we do this crazy in-person live CD release, double CD release in St. Catharines with about 1 million special guests. So if you've been really wanting to see live music on stage, that's where you want to be, and all the details you'll find there. Now, how about a little bit of background music? And I'm going to talk about here that we have the rest of the series. This has been number 6. Coming up next week, we've got Robi Botos, then Anh Phung, Donné Roberts and Yukiko Tsutsui, Tamar Ilana, Amir Amiri, Duke Redbird, right here in Backstage in the Zoom room. And next week, we have Robi Botos. He's an insanely amazing piano player. You just won't believe what this guy can do on the ivories. Multiple Juno winner. And he's going to be right here where Chendy's sitting. That's next week, every Friday at noon EST. Here in the Sultans of String Zoom room. And you know what? I'm going to break a rule here. I'm going to show the audience here a little bit of a teaser of what they're going to hear tomorrow at the Women of Song and Story show that we're live streaming. Guys, check this out. It's true. We have both those artists with us tomorrow night, nice. Kelly Lee Evans and Amanda Martinez. So be sure to tune in for that. We have a few people that we need to thank. Before that, though, don't forget, or please remember, as Kevin always tells me to say, don't forget not to say don't forget. Please remember to hit the follow button if you're watching on Facebook, and if you're on YouTube. You can hit the subscribe and ring that bell so you find out when we're performing again. And here we go with the most important thing, the thank yous to all our musical collaborators, especially Rosendo Chendy Leon here with us in the house, our tech team of John, Guillermo, Jake, Adrian, Sam, Ed, Micah, our admin team of Kevin, Lisa, Dave, Tanya, Christine, Rob, Eric, Max, our distributors, Fontana, CEN, and Proper, and Rick and Marianne Chester, best friends a musician could ever have, Canada Council for the Arts for sponsoring this series, Ontario Arts Council for helping us build this Zoom room, and all of you for tuning in. We're so grateful to be here with you today. And a few more comments here while we play out the music. And it's Michelle. Yeah, we all love Amanda Martinez. Thanks for tuning in, Louise. And John Bird in Lakefield, Ontario. Love Lakefield. And Craig, nice to see you here with us. Don't forget, support Chendy, the Elevator Collective. Buy his music. Hire them. Amplify his voice. And we look forward to seeing you again very soon. This is the hardest part of the show for me. I have to hit that finish button, and music's too good.
Thank you.
Just hang out here for a moment.
Thank you, my brothers.
Thank you, Chendy.
Thank you, Chendy!
And a shout out to my kids and wife.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't be the same person without them.
We all feel that way about our own people.
Right?
All right.
I'm sure when I show him this later, he's going to be playing, dancing, Naiko.
Right now, Yukiko.
Naiko, Naele, and Stisha.
And Naele is a great dancer.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Peace out.